JC, with all these recent COVID cases and close contact situations, have some guys gotten a little lax on following all the protocols that should be followed?
I mean, it's tough to say. It's tough to dive into each individual case. I think you first start at understanding that this has not gone away, and that's something that we have to continue to understand, that this is out there, and it's something you have to focus on every single day. And it's not easy as cases around in our community rise. We are members of that community. We live in that community, and as we're seeing right now, we haven't seen an example of cases being transmitted within our facility here. So we're seeing examples of cases come from outside of our facility. And it's tough to stay away, but I think as long as you keep harping on wearing a mask, socially distancing, and then when you're in this building, wearing your connects on as well, it takes care of those things.
Thanks, Chef. Dale Ryder, you're next.
Hey, JC, I ask you this as the NFLPA president and not as a Cleveland Brown. A lot of discussion amongst fans about whether or not you guys should have played that game. And, fans were looking at the Titans situation and what happened in Baltimore and Denver having to play without a quarterback. And the thought of those that had severe violations kind of got rewarded in the sense that, their games got postponed. Whereas you guys, within 24 hours of your game, you lost all your wide receivers and a couple of linebackers. So I'm just, from your perspective as the Players Association president, were you involved in any of those discussions? And then also, do you come out of the situation comfortable with how the NFL handled the Browns' particular situation?
Yeah, I'll start by saying I don't think there's any conversation to be involved in. I think it's been pretty clear. Games won't be postponed because of some sort of competitive disadvantage due to high risk close contacts. That's been clear from the get-go. We had an example in San Francisco, example in Denver, and then two examples this week with Detroit and ourselves. So that's been clear. I would argue the sentiment that teams that had full outbreaks that caused postponements, that was to their advantage. You talk to Miles, who still is talking about how that is sticking with him from having COVID. I wouldn't think having multiple people get COVID is to anybody's advantage. So I would strongly disagree with that sentiment, and that's how it's been. If there's active spread within a team and there's a lack of containment, it's not safe for that team to come back together, let alone put them with another team. You just can't do that. So that's when we've seen examples of games be postponed, is when there's active spread, the virus is moving through and we can't contain it. That's when you have to start pushing the game back, because you can't bring one team, let alone two teams together. If there's an incident where players are deemed high risk close contacts, those have always continued to be pushed forward. We knew that going into the season. That's why practice squads were expanded. That's why we've had increased roster flexibility for those exact examples. So there's really no conversation to have when that story or when that broke down on Saturday. It is what it is.
Thank you, Daryl. We'll go to Tony Grossi.
They see at the same time, there is a rule of common sense. And in your team's case, that was the latest any of those players in the work week got held back. What harm would it have done for the Players Association to say, hey, we're getting near playoff time here. There's an available day the next day, give our coach 24 extra hours to cobble together a game plan?
Yeah, I think it's a slippery slope. We've never seen that all year. I'm sure San Fran earlier in the year, that game for San Fran earlier in the year counts just as much as our game does. Detroit having no coaches all week, I'm sure they would want more time to have their coaches actually come back if the game was postponed. So I think you enter a more slippery slope when you start postponing things, not for a health and safety reason, but for a competitive advantage reason. Mm-hmm. I think you just enter waters you don't really want to swim in.
But just compare it to like how some rules change in the final 2 minutes of a game. Some rules could be changed for the final 2 weeks of the season. But anyway, you answered it.
Yeah. I think you stick to the health and safety, and if games get postponed, solely to avoid more people getting sick. And we found the person that was sick. We found his high-risk close contacts, and they can't play because they're more at risk of turning positive and getting other people sick.
Did you, Sunday, have to explain some of these things to your teammates?
No one asked. I think by this point, like you said, it's late in the season. Guys understand the rules. Guys understand the implications of those rules, and understand what happens if you become a high-risk close contact. We've had plenty of guys be high-risk close contacts and not be forced to miss the game. But those 5 days are set in stone. You're out for 5 days. So when that happens, you understand that if it happens late in the week, you're not going to be able to play.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Aditi Kingawala has her next question.
Hey, JC. Purely football question looking towards Sunday. When you look at the interior of the Steelers' defensive line, why are they able to bring such pressure? Is it something that's schematic? Is it because of the guys that are lined up outside? Why do they have such success? And I'm talking about Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, and obviously Alualu.
I mean, I think you just listed 3 extremely talented defensive linemen, and they do really good at bringing 5 and getting pressure with 5. And they have 5 very good rushers. And you, as an offensive line, realize in many cases you're going to have 5 one-on-one blocks, and you're going to have to hold up. And it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do, especially when you're doing 5 one-on-one blocks against 5 of the better rushers in the league. And that's something they have. That's a big advantage of theirs. And you've seen the sack numbers for them over the last 4 years all be high each and every year because they have a lot of talent on that side of the ball. They're good pass rushers, but they're good in all phases of the game. It's a really talented defensive front. I think it's the most talented front 7 in football.
So it's not, so you don't think it's anything they do schematically. It's nothing in the way that they confuse or misdirect. It's just who they are.
They have a great scheme too, but I think when you have that amount of talent in your front 7, you're set up for success as is. Then any scheme on top of it just helps the cause.
Okay, then one more, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Obviously, when we talk about offensive lines and it's the chemistry and being able to communicate, no disrespect to the guys that have had to fill in, but what is the level of confidence when you do have Wyatt Teller, when you do have Jedrick Wills, the body of work that you have put in? What are you able to do that you maybe can't do when somebody else has to fill in?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Chris Hubbard did a great job filling in for a lot of games this year. I think we feel really confident whatever group of 5 we trot out there, we feel really confident. Now, obviously, we have a starting 5 that went into the season of who we prepared most with, who has the most reps together. So when you're able to get Jed back and get Wyatt back, all that work, all that timing, all that communication, all kind of settles in a little bit. Everybody feels a little more comfortable. Everybody knows the calls and kind of almost the unspoken language on the line of scrimmage of where my feet are going to be, where his feet are going to be. What can I say that he'll know what I'm saying without having to actually make a call? So all that stuff just comes with practicing a bunch and playing together a bunch. So you gain that when you have people with more experience playing together come back.
Thank you, Aditi. Mary Kay Cabot is next.
Yeah, JC, what makes you think that you guys will be better equipped to handle that excellent front 7, maybe better this time around than you did in the first meeting? And it looks to me like, when I see it looks like Cam Hayward plans on playing, and Mike Tomlin seems to think that he's going to play the vast majority of his guys. So even though it might seem like with Ben out that this is going to be some kind of a cakewalk or something, are you guys anticipating a full strength defense and quite the battle?
Yeah, I think it would be a miscalculation if we didn't. I think we go into this game ready to take their best, and I think they're going to give us their best. And how do we play better than we did last time? I think you look at the tape, you continue to get better. It was a long time since we played them last. I think we've grown as a team, and we've grown as an offensive line since then. But you get back to the basics, work on your fundamentals, watch that film. That's always kind of the best way to learn before facing a guy is look back to when you faced them last and see what you did well, what you didn't do well, and really learn from that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Kay. We'll go to Scott Petrick.
Hey, JC, I know this year's been crazy and you guys have had to adjust your schedule multiple times, but how tough was today being the first day of Steelers week and what a huge game Sunday is? Yeah,
like you said, we've done it so much. I don't think it even makes us kind of bat an eye at this point. we've moved our schedule around. We've kind of had the hurry up and wait of we know we're going to come in, but we don't know when, and you're kind of sitting around the house. So we've done that quite a bit now. I don't think it even phases guys at this point in the season.
And the fact that you had to put so many guys on, not you, but went on the reserve list Saturday because they were identified as close contacts, did that bother some guys because it seems like something that could be avoided?
It's tough. I think, again, you've seen it. It's tough to play in those situations. I don't think there's been a lot of success. The teams that have a large number of guys on the COVID reserve list. So it's not easy, but that's the year we're playing, and it's unfortunate set of circumstances that get us in that position. But again, I think if you wear your mask, if you wear your connects on, and if you socially distance, I think that's the lesson we learn from this is you'll be fine and be able to play. The odds are you're not going to get the virus in the first place, and you won't be classified as a high-risk close contact.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. We have time for 3 more questions. We'll go to Jake Trotter, Nate Ulrich, and Tony Grossi. 1 question each, please.
Yeah, JC, you were just talking about how the juggling doesn't really phase you anymore, but at the same time, you've got season high number of guys on the COVID reserve list at the moment. Now, how are you guys handling that kind of adversity? Hoping you get those guys back, but at the same time, there's a possibility you could lose more guys before Sunday. So, how is the team, especially the leaders on the team, handling the situation?
Yeah, well, the good thing about today is we had extended meetings, which is what they can participate in. They're all Zoom meetings, so you get more time in the classroom, more time to learn the game plan. They wouldn't have been able to be on the field, so you have longer meetings instead, and they're able to learn and pick up all this information we would have done during a walkthrough or during a longer practice. So you can twist that into a positive. But again, you have to be ready to play and understand. Again, we haven't seen the spread within the building, so we're hopeful that will continue. And then you're at the same risk of everybody else of a new case popping up. And again, like I just said, when you're in this building, wearing your mask, wearing your connects on, and socially distancing, you won't be put on that high-risk close contact list. So as long as we redial into those 3 aspects of it, I think we'll feel pretty confident we'll be safe for the guys that aren't sick to be able to play on Sunday.
Thank you, Jake. To Nate Ulrich.
Hey, JC, what's your sense of Baker Mayfield's kind of mood and approach this week as he gets ready for what he described to us as already a playoff game? Backs against the wall. He thinks that he's handled that kind of situation well in his life, and he's very frustrated about his performance Sunday. So what are you seeing from Baker right now?
Baker's good. Baker's dialed in. Baker's ready to go. Had a great group of meetings, talked through all of our looks, our checks, and we had a good little shorter practice, but real crisp practice. I think Baker's ready to go.
Thank you, Nate. Last one, Tony Grossi.
Your last question of the regular season. The NFL has taken, I think, a lot of criticism for even staging games, for being greedy, and so on and so forth. You've been very much involved in where the league has gotten to this point. How would you grade what the league has been able to pull off with the union?
I mean, I think what we as a union looked into when this whole thing started, I mean, we really did look at what I guess what you would call the ethical issues of playing a season in a pandemic. And I think that was, as we started the conversations, was a big part of it. I mean, we talked about, I think if we were going to pull resources away from our communities, if we were going to put first responders at a higher risk, I don't think this season happens. I think the guys, just the players themselves would have voted not to play this year if that was what was going to happen. So I don't think, a criticism in that way of greed. I think we've always looked for the safest way for our communities to move forward, and then the safest way for us as players to continue to play the game, continue to get paid, continue to put a product on the field. So I think the amount of work that went into it, the amount of adaptability that it caused, which isn't always a strong suit of any business, let alone the NFL, of being willing to evolve and change. And this year needed it for it to work. So I give both the NFLPA and the NFL a ton of credit for for working through all those issues, and leaving the ethical issues in the, in the forefront and making them the most important to start the whole conversation.